All right. Well, thanks for being here, Mark. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, and I am so excited that you're the way you started. And I was reading about your About Us page and your journey of going to the Pac Northwest and then coming back home to
Mm.
Buffalo, and how you started exploring Buffalo and came up with um, Buffalo Bike Tours. So, talk to us about what that was like, and what was some of the inspiration about behind starting the tour.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, well, thanks for having me on the show today. Awesome to learn more about Trip Outside. Yeah, my name is Mark. I'm founder of Buffalo Bike Tours. We're a tour operator here in Buffalo, New York. Obviously, does tours by bicycles, bike rentals. So we primarily do food tours and history tours of the city by bike. But yeah, I started in 2018 was our first year. So I grew up here in Buffalo. And my background's kind of in film and video. Worked at a TV station, edited commercials for a little bit, and got involved with the community arts center and discovered that I really didn't like working at the TV station. So I decided to go back to get my master's in arts administration at the University of Oregon and wound up in Portland, where I founded a nonprofit called Know Your City that does tours by bus, bike, and foot and educational programs with kids, all about like learning everything about the city and that kind of thing. Um, After 6 years of leadership, yeah, nonprofits can be a tricky bag, and I had a difference in vision between me and like the board at the time, and decided to take a better paying job up in Seattle. And when that job didn't work out, I wound up back in Portland, and really in between things, and kind of like just I was like catering, like temping, doing a million different jobs just to make ends meet. And at the end of the month, there's just like not like I had ideas to maybe start another business, but there wasn't much left in the tank after, all your bills are paid for. It's just kind of what's happening in cities around the country with, this housing bubble and displacement and gentrification type of issues. And I definitely felt that and so, yeah, I mean, just comparatively, a basic house in Portland, the average cost is going to be start around 500,000. In Buffalo, that's 100,000,
Wow.
and the salaries are not five times as great. So I decided to move back to Buffalo to come back home and to take some of the experiences that I had in Portland and Seattle, larger cities, and bring them back to my community. A quick little history of Buffalo is a very industrial city, a huge boom town with the Erie Canal opening in 1825. We became known for a lot of different industries like Bethlehem Steel and particularly all the shipping around the ports. But by the 1950s, when they put in the St. Lawrence Seaway, that was a huge impact to our shipping and our economy. And that coupled with some decisions such as, just like deregulation of labor in the United States and Bethlehem Steel, other companies going to Mexico to pay workers less money. We wound up losing a lot of our industries. And our population shrunk. Quite dramatically to below 1950s levels. So yeah, we experienced a lot of economic just decline, and it's very apparent. Like if you're here, you could see a lot of boarded up buildings and blight and that kind of thing. But more recently, I'd say in the last 10 years, there has been a new energy, definitely new revitalization. Canal side, where we're located, a little bit of a tourist area. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a different energy. There's new pockets of development, and um, it's just a more reasonable way of life. So get to be a little bit closer to mom and dad here in Buffalo, and combine, get back to personally like a creative life, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of tour operators that probably like resonates. I'm trying to combine my passions. I love storytelling. I love showing people. I love travel and that kind of thing, and combine that with bicycles and food, and all those things, and create a life for myself based around those passions.
That's really cool. And you just decided that when you went back, you wanted to share that
Mm.
revitalization that's happening in Buffalo with other people by bike. And what
Yeah,
was that
yeah.
process like?
So that's
from
really
having an
interesting.
idea to getting started?
Yeah, yeah. So when like before I left Buffalo, I was involved with a lot of bicycling, kind of like community activism. I had started Buffalo Critical Mass here, like a weekly celebration of bicycles, and I was very involved with a lot of that community stuff. I left for like 15 years, and in those 15 years, I was like totally floored when I moved back because we had a nonprofit advocacy organization that sprung up that advocates for bike lanes. They have a community workshop where you can like learn bike maintenance skills. We actually had the very first bike share program in the United States, Ready Bike Share. Um, and Ride for Roswell, that's a new development. That's I think one of the largest, if not the largest, bicycle fundraiser in the country for cancer research. So we have a really passionate bike community. That's a Slow Roll, which is a community bike ride. It's kind of like the next evolution of Critical Mass, where they get 1,000 people most weeks, just raising the
That's super cool.
visibility of bicycles, which is incredible because we have a city of 250,000 people. So to have 1,000 of those people on bicycles is totally
Yeah,
incredible. So a very passionate bike community, but it was actually crazy because there were tons of different tours. There was, and that's all kind of new too, like the pedal pubs and the, segways and double decker buses and a lot of different things, but no one was really doing tours by bicycle. And that's also say as well that like Buffalo is a pretty small city. It's easy to get around on bike. We have a great some great trails here. They just actually completed the trail that goes all the way from Buffalo down to New York City. So the Erie Canal Trail, you can literally go from Buffalo all the way down to New York now.
wow, how far
Um,
is that?
I don't know, I have to check on a map.
Yeah, sure, no worries.
Take a few days, but
I'll take
yeah.
a link in the show notes when we get the answer.
Yeah, there you go. There you
Right.
go. And then, Frederick Law Olmsted, he designed the first greenway system in the United States here in Buffalo, New York. So we have a lot of really great, luscious, wide streets that are great for biking on in the summer. So yeah, I just kind of like saw a need there, and I started actually just flyering those slow roll events, going to various bike events, and literally handing out handbills one at a time, telling people about this. I only had one tour at the time. I called it the B-sides ride, so kind of like the B-side of a record, some of the deep cuts in Buffalo history,
Okay.
and a little bit of our like social activist history, and I combined it with some songs that I performed very poorly on the ukulele. These sing along songs about little nuggets of Buffalo history, and people just kept showing up, and I really kind of like one of the things I picked up in my previous tour company was the power of reviews,
Yeah.
like the TripAdvisor and Google reviews and that. And so a lot of those early people who came on these tours, it was a donation based tour, but I said at the end, one thing that would really help us grow is to, share your experience. And that really made a huge difference in people finding out about us from out of town. And then like 2019 was, our first full year, and then 2020 was our second year, which was the COVID year. So that's where we're kind of at, and we're just kind of like this whole time we've just been trying to kind of like build on that momentum. With COVID, um, we did about 70% of what we did the previous year. So actually, I think that's pretty
That's
good.
still pretty good,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Given that
yeah,
a lot of the country was shut down, especially New York, I'm sure it was very strict.
right, yeah. A lot of the tour operators never even opened. So we just kind of try to, keep positivity going, and we introduced some different programs, including like we had some self-guided tours, so people could use the Ride with GPS app to just explore
Sure.
Buffalo with kind of curated routes and sites of interest. So yeah, and then this chicken
That's
wing
super
thing has been
cool.
like a big thing. So just keeping the positivity going.
And, you just started with taking people out and donate whatever you want, and did you then have to convert it to a business with all the things that come along with, permits and all the other things, or are you still donation based?
No, we graduated a little bit. Yeah, so we had a the kind of like a reservation system using Eventbrite, and that's just like it's limited, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, kind of looking at other models around the country, and got connected. I got a Squarespace site and connected with Fair Harbor, um, and
Bought
yeah,
a bunch of
as we were
bikes.
bought a bunch of bikes. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Actually, at the beginning days, I almost forgot about that. Yeah, we didn't have our own fleet of bikes. We were using the Ready. We had a partnership with Ready Bike Share, the bike share company. If people didn't
sure.
have their own bikes, but now we bought our own fleet. They're a lot lighter and easier to ride than the kind of like social bikes, but um, yeah, and we're down now at Canal Side, which is a little tourist area where the terminus of the Erie Canal once was. So it's like a historic spot. We're actually like literally on the site where the canal like um, joined with Lake Erie. So yeah, it's been wonderful. People have been like super receptive. I think most of the feedback has been like overwhelmingly positive. People are just. I think that's the other thing about like Buffalo or like even just a small market. Um, there wasn't, I mean, there was no like quote unquote competition, but people are just like jazzed that there's something new. There's like a new activity to explore their city, even if it's just like in city travel. And that's, and then we also like, we try to support other businesses. So we have like our food tours that go to, um, various Buffalo institutions. So those businesses are, glad to
Sure.
have us. And it's just a great thing for Buffalo. So we're glad to be part of that ecology and mix.
Yeah, I really love what you're doing. You get to explore the city anytime we're in the city. And when we last lived in a city in Atlanta, being on a bike was by far our favorite way of exploring. One, you don't have to worry about parking. You can hit way more spots.
Mm.
It's just more enjoyable, period, to get around on a bike versus, driving around in a car. And in a tour like this, you're not just taking it all in like a bus tour. You're actually engaging in in an activity, so you're and getting a workout or however much you want along the way, which is really exciting. So as you're burning calories, and you can go eat those at those delicious restaurants along the way and keep burning calories. That's really cool.
Yeah,
So
we,
you
we
started
say
this.
we say in Buffalo, we have the chicken. You're not going to lose any weight coming here to,
Yeah.
to Buffalo, New York. We're
Yeah.
known for like chicken wings. There's a certain kind of pizza called Buffalo pizza.
Ah,
We have a ton of breweries here. A beef on weck sandwich. Yeah, nothing's gonna help you shed some pounds, but we'll make you earn those wings. So
there you go. Burn as many calories as you can because you're definitely gonna be taking
yeah.
them in. You started this as not a full time thing, and it seems like it's still not. This is more of what people would call it as a side hustle project that turned into a business. So, what's that journey like? How are you managing both of those along with having a job or whatever you do um, full time?
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it's that's a great life work balance. But yeah, it's something I'm super passionate about. I do have a day job. It's I've been doing this now for like 3 years. So at different points in those 3 years, the Buffalo Bike Tours has been more of my main source of income and less of it, depending on what point in those 3 years you talk to me. But I think like my goal for this year is actually to maybe take more of a managerial like backseat. Uh, it's personally I have some other projects going on. My wife is actually starting like a food truck, and we're saving up for some like larger life ideals that we're working towards. So having the financial stability of a full time like regular gig is really important to me.
Yeah,
At the same time, like I never want to get to a point where I'm not on the bike leading the tours. So it's like still really important to me. And I put, I mean, I have written scripts, but I don't always stay, I don't stay on script, but it's a lot of it is my own personal interest. Like I've curated
yeah,
stories. I've, created a certain voice that's a part of me. And, um, I want to give my tour guides enough freedom to kind of make that also their voice. Um, but yeah, so I mean, it's definitely a balance. But yeah, I love being outside, like with people, so I never want to lose sight of that. But is also, yeah, it's one of those things where you need to just kind of like balance and look at the big picture. Especially as you kind of like getting older, you're like, I mean, it's wonderful to have your ideals and be like, I'm just gonna do my DIY thing, but we all need some financial stability in our lives.
Sure,
So
it's
I
a
think that
balance.
both things are definitely possible, and it's just trying to figure out the happy medium between those.
Well, hopefully you're inspiring others that are listening that are thinking, Buffalo's
Yeah,
cool, but my town is as well. I would love to start one in my town. And that was cool to see that you just started it. You started doing it as a donation. You didn't, it seems like you didn't really wait to see if there was a business plan there. And then things kind of fall into
yeah.
place. The demand was there and it grew into something bigger. And you're providing an amazing offering for people to explore the city in a different way.
Absolutely, yeah, I'd say that's spot on. Yeah, didn't really
Cool.
have necessarily a full business plan, or I didn't have any bikes or anything, when we kind of started. But that's definitely like my philosophy about business. Even like my wife's starting a food truck, like we're doing pop-ups and this is actually like a great time. I mean, that sounds kind of weird to say, but like during COVID, there's so many restaurants that are hurting right now.
Yeah.
And if you're able to be like, offer something new and say like, hey, we want to help you, we're going to like market this, we're going to get it out to our networks, and we're going to send out a
Yeah.
press release, whatever, and we're going to have like a one night thing. Could we work together? Now is a perfect time, kind of like to try out some different ideas or experiment with things, and so that's kind of like what we're trying to do. And the next step would be a food truck, and then finally maybe like a brick and mortar. But I'm a big fan of starting small, incremental growth, testing the waters, and building it organically as you build your brand.
Awesome. What are some fun things to do in Buffalo? Talk to me about some of the
Mm,
tours that you offer, and then on top of that, other outdoor activities in Buffalo that you enjoy doing or
for sure.
people enjoy doing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Buffalo is a great place to visit in the summer. As I was saying, it's a great place to visit anytime, but we are located on Lake Erie. So we have what's called the lake effect, which dumps a lot of snow on us every year. It's snowing right now as I look out my window. Um, so yeah, it's definitely a seasonal business, Buffalo Bike Tours. But once the summer hits, everybody and their brother wants to be outside. So it's a bumping place in the summer. There's
That's
literally like free music like every day of the week at a different place. Yeah, so it's yeah, food trucks, everything going on in the summer. Um, and my favorite way, of course, maybe a little biased, is to explore it on bicycles. So we do bike rentals. If you don't want to rent from us, there's other bike shops and Ready Bike Share. But yeah, as I mentioned, kind of like we have a great number of bike trails in Buffalo, makes it a great place to explore. Um, Other activities I love doing in Buffalo outdoors, kayaking is really awesome. It's actually one of the more unique experiences. Buffalo has the largest collection of grain silos in the United States, or maybe the world. I don't know. We
yeah.
have 12 of them. So
Oh, wow.
um, Joseph Dart in the 1840s invented the steam-powered grain scoop. So like this thing like uh, this claw basically like
Off the
scoops up
ship.
the grain. Yeah, yeah, and then it dumps them into these storage units, and eventually they are made out of cement. So because that happened in Buffalo, and because we were located on the Erie Canal, we became this nexus for the shipping all over the country. We also had a lot of rail, and kind of the convergence of all these different modes of transportation. That's all to just say that, yeah, we still have the ruins of these industry, and they're doing some really interesting things on some of them. Like literally, there's this like giant entertainment complex where you can like zip line like through the grain silo.
Oh,
um,
wow.
there's another really cool place called Silo City where they're totally given it over to like arts and culturals. So there's like poetry readings and bands and film screenings and festivals that happen in the grain silos. It's really cool. It's actually really
That's
unique
cool.
to Buffalo. So it's kind of like a marrying our industrial heritage with kind of like, yeah, new creative, I don't know, placemaking or whatever. But yes, it's great. And then, like, you know, outside of Buffalo, there's a lot of stuff to explore too, like Niagara, of course, Niagara Falls, Niagara Gorge, great hikes and you know, winter activities here, skiing and stuff like that. So there's a lot to do in our area, for sure. So yeah, I love to do all of it.
Cool. So coming into summer, when does it start getting warm? I know some of these places could be cold until all the way to April and May. So would you think like June through August, September is probably your peak months? Is that a good time to visit?
For sure, for sure. We start up in May, but yeah, June, July, August, those are going to be your big months. But actually, I'm really actually a fan of September and even October. When we
Sure.
start to get, you know, New York State gets like the really vivid change in colors in the leaves. So yeah, um,
That's super
anytime's
cool.
great. But yeah.
What are some of your tours that you're offering? And talk to me about your New York Times chicken tour and the popularity that it's gaining.
Yeah, yeah. So we have four tours. Two are history tours and two are food tours. Um, we have a tour that's kind of like a basic 101 of Buffalo history. Um, but we also try to throw in some a little bit of the underground stories and stuff like that. And then we have one that's kind of more of a history tour going out to Outer Harbor. Outer Harbor was a site of really heavy industry in the past. And it's like some of those grain silos as well as other heavy like Bethlehem steel and things like that. And so we have it's more of like kind of a nature-y trail, so less like downtown beautiful architecture and
Right.
more industrial heritage.
Got it.
um, and then we have two food tours. We do have kind of like a foodie tour that's more oriented towards maybe like a vegetarian or something like that, but that's kind of like looking at like craft, artisanal, you know, all those kind of buzzwords. But yeah, like a little foodie tour of Buffalo. But then we have, of course, our chicken wing tour, which has been our most popular tour. Uh, and that was it's almost like a little bit of a mistake, or like I started doing these tours and inevitably after like people have been on a 2 or 3 hour tour, they're like, where's a good place to go get lunch? And specifically, where's the best place to go get chicken wings? Because they're in Buffalo, New York. And being like mostly a vegetarian, I never knew what to tell them. You know, I mean, I had like a couple places I kind of liked. So, but it got me to thinking like this is actually like our lowest common denominator, that like people who are visiting Buffalo who don't know anything about the city, that's like the base thing that like people know about Buffalo. They heard of
Yeah.
Buffalo
It's the
wings.
sauce. What else is there? Well, there's nothing else
Like
there.
maybe people didn't hear the Erie Canal, they never heard of the Pan American Exposition, but they know like there's only one family. They were from Switzerland who never heard about. They were like, "What Buffalo? What?" But yeah, so I started putting together like I said, "Oh, I should do like a food, like a wing tour on bikes." So that's kind of how it started. And I brought people around to like some of the classic like chicken wing spots. And that was the first year. And then I kind of like started to do some digging into the story. So there's a really popular, well-known establishment here in Buffalo. It actually has like 30 or 40 franchises around the world now, called Frank and Teresa's Anchor Bar. And they claim that they invented chicken wings in 1964, and they did put their own spin on it, but I think that that is a bit debatable whether they actually invented chicken wings at the Anchor Bar, because there's actually literally recipes I found that date back about 2,000 years prior, and even within the city of Buffalo, they have menus going back to the 1850s with chicken wings on them. So um, they might have been a little bit different
Pumpkin.
flavor, different
Right.
flavoring, whatnot. But this led me to actually like this kind of like chicken wing journey, where I wound up connecting with. There's a man by the name of John Young who claimed that he invented chicken wings in Buffalo 3 years prior. In 1961 is when John Young's Wings and Things first opened business. So I was like really curious about this and I started doing some research and I talked to community historians. And every week I got like 1 degree closer, but I was really having a hard time trying to find the Young family. And I literally called everybody in the phone book. I wrote letters to everybody, literally like, everyone with the last name
Wow.
Young. I wrote them a letter in the mail and said like, "Hey, I'm the tour operator. I'm really like obsessed with like this story. I'm trying to find out. I've talked to dozens of people who've been to this restaurant, but like I can't, and I'm trying to like if you have any leads, if you're the right person, let me know."
You're talking to everybody's grandparents.
Yeah, yeah, and actually that led nowhere. But I wound up connecting with a reporter at one of the local TV stations, and they were doing a story on chicken wings, and they were able to contact the family. So this reporter Madison Carter had connected me with Lina Brown Young, John's daughter, and that's led kind of like to a revival of she not only sat down and talked to me, but she said, I still have my dad's recipe. If you ever want to try these original chicken wings that started it all, like
That's
I'll make
cool.
some for you. So
Yeah.
I was like, that's incredible, and so I tried them and I was like, oh my God, you got it. Like, we have to have this on our tour. Right. So I started searching around for a commercial kitchen and this brought up this whole thing. And so, it's a complicated story because it's also the story, kind of like a parallel story of like almost like the story of rock and roll, where it's indisputable that chicken wings have been a part of soul food cooking and Asian cuisine for many, many years. And the fact that, like in 1964, Italian couple laid claim to inventing chicken wings is a little bit problematic, and I'm not taking anything away. Like Teresa Bellissimo put her own spin on it, and that's great. But wanted to give the man his due respect in Buffalo, and so it's been kind of like at this moment too, where like a lot of people are talking about Black history, talking about relevant um, issues about the whole Black Lives Matter movement and things of this nature. And that's kind of been part of like my values, like why I started Buffalo Bike Tours in a way. I love the outdoors and recreation and biking and everything, but um, I also see I'm a big believer in the concept of applied history, and that like history is not neutral. And our statues, like we had a statue of Christopher Columbus. It was taken down. We have a statue of Millard Fillmore right outside of City Hall. Millard Fillmore enacted the Fugitive Slave Act, which made it, which basically imposed jail time and fines on those who were helping people seek freedom in Canada. He was actually a mayor. He was the mayor, and he was from Buffalo, and then became president of the United States. But so anyways, it comes at this time when we're kind of like reassessing history, and I'm glad to be an ally and glad to be a part of Lina Brown Young's story. And now kind of it's coming full circle. So we had this amazing comic in the New York Times, but we're also launching a fundraiser to create a large mural at the site of John Young's original restaurant. Um, so I know I'm kind of like going a little tangentially here, but
No, this is
one of the
really cool stuff.
concepts that I try to infer on my tours is the concept of reading the landscape, which is basically like looking at our physical landscape and what we can infer from it. So the fact that the anchor bar is still there kind of like preserves their place in history, and the fact that John Young's wings and things is not there largely because of racial unrest in Buffalo in the late 1960s when he closed his restaurant. Um, that also tells the story, right? But that's kind of like why we have probably forgotten his story, and his wings haven't been available in 20 years, is because it's not there in the physical landscape. So by creating a large scale mural at the site of his former restaurant, that gives him that place in our imagination. Also like designing tours, like you could have a really fascinating story at a site of a parking lot, and that's not a good story. But if there's something actually physical in the landscape that you can like attach your memory or attach your imagination to, then it makes it like much more relevant and interesting for just a story and a narrative. So I think it's a really powerful and important project. You know, again, it's just kind of like trying to grow things organically and kind of similar to doing like the donation based tours, and like we're just kind of like trying to you know start small and plant the seed, and who knows,
Sure.
maybe the young family will be bottling mambo sauce and having a multi-million-dollar empire soon, just like the Anchor
We
Bar.
hope so.
um, yeah, but just kind of trying to be part of that story, and do something cool, do something good for Buffalo, and you know put our flag in the air. So it's been a really fascinating journey, and yeah, again, like I mean, I think back actually to this time. At this time last year, I was just meeting Lina Brown Young for the first time, and like interviewing her, just asking her about the story. It's yeah, kind of crazy like what's happened in the last year. Yeah, it's a story, and I think like all these tour operators probably have a story that's not like a static thing, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's
What
fascinating to see where it goes.
What's really interesting is taking the time to appreciate how much goes into creating a tour and telling the
Right.
story. We have taken several tours in the past. We kind of just take it for granted, but the amount of work that you're putting in the back end, understanding the history, and you especially totally not giving up when the information's not there and keep going is really cool because I think you're not letting history be lost, and you're investing a lot of your personal time in the true research and time spent bringing that relevancy to your tour and the history of Buffalo. You mentioned one thing about one of your history tours that there's some like underground stuff. Is there one thing that you'd like to share that uh, is a
Oh
little
man.
preview of on the tour? Or you can bring out the ukulele, whatever you prefer.
Oh my God, I do have them over there.
All right. Well,
I,
I'm gonna leave it up to you, but we'd love to hear
uh,
it.
I'm gonna say like just yeah, just that history of the African American experience in Buffalo has been very strong, not just within this like chicken wing thing, but of course, but dating back to the early 1830s with the Underground Railroad here in Buffalo. We're located right on the border, of course, right before Canada, and so this was the last stop before people reached freedom in Canada. So we had a lot of activity. Mary Talbert, well-known activist, was from Buffalo. She was one of the co-founders of the Niagara Movement and later the NAACP. Lived in Buffalo. Um,
Very cool.
uh, Frederick Douglass, of course, living in Rochester, so a lot of connection there. Um, but yeah, very rich history there. And then honestly, like our worker history here too, like very working class city, working class history here in Buffalo. So a lot of stories there with like Bethlehem Steel and whatnot that we try to bring out on our tour. Some of the old we call like labor sharks. Fingy Connors was like this notorious villain who was terribly anti-union. But yeah, I mean Buffalo's a great city. We got we're coming up. Buffalo Bills couldn't quite get there. Most people know Buffalo for maybe a couple key things: a losing football team, chicken wings, and snowstorms. We try to like challenge some of those narratives a little bit. We're not above some self-deprecating humor for sure, for sure. We
Yeah.
talk, we address some of that, but it's a great place, man, and it's the West Side is a burgeoning multicultural area where we're also like something of a sanctuary city. So a lot of immigrants and refugees here who are super industrious and are starting all sorts of food businesses. Um, so yeah, we're kind of like a foodie town, and just a lot of cool stuff to check out. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I can't wait to get there. Everything you're talking about is making me add Buffalo to our list. We're all the way across the country right now, but I'm sure, like many of our listeners, we are so excited to. I'm so excited to come explore Buffalo because not just the history, just the weather, and your passion comes through so well. And it seems like you've really truly found your home back in Buffalo. And we need people like you to resurrect movements that bring back the awesomeness of these towns that once were. And I'm really hopeful that with tech and companies going remote, that more people will do that. Find their whether it was your
Sure.
hometown or a smaller town that's more affordable to live, that has a lot of uniqueness to it, and go out there and collaborate and create new experiences that people don't have to travel hundreds of miles to go explore. It's right there in your own backyard.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's a trend that you're going to see is people doing more of the tourists in your. I mean, at least like this coming year, more
Yeah,
regional
absolutely.
travel and be a tourist in your own hometown. But
All right.
yeah, yeah. When this all lifts, when the dust settles, please come. We'll glad one of our nicknames. We actually have a lot of nicknames as a city, but one of them is the city of good neighbors, and so um, yeah, we'll gladly accept you here. Actually, my tours, sometimes I think I should become like a real estate agent because people are like, wow, it's only $100,000 for a house. And, yeah, connect you with a realtor at the end of the day's tour.
Well, I'll start doing it as a donation, and I know where that's going to lead next.
Yeah.
Mark, thanks so much for coming on the show today, man. It was really incredible to have you. Your knowledge, your experience, and everything you're doing and what you're about is truly amazing, and I can't wait to meet you in person.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure being on your show and look forward to collaborating with you. People are interested in finding out more. You go to buffalobiketours.com. That's our website. We're on socials as well, Facebook and Instagram. And yeah, look forward to seeing you in Buffalo.